Welcome to the webinar, Sharing Resources for the Start of School, the Cradle to College and Career Practice Group of the National Committee of Practice on Transition put this webinar together for us. Thank you so much. And I am Mariola Rosser. I work for the IDEA Partnership and I facilitate the National Committee of Practice on Transition. And it's my privilege today to support you in terms of technology and other things. And I'm looking forward to learn more about the resources that you will be sharing with us. And I will ask Marianne Moore and Ashley Stoffel to introduce the webinar and the presenters.
Great. Well, this is Ashley Stoffel, and I want to welcome everyone to the webinar today. I co-facilitate the Cradle to College and Career Practice Group along with Marianne Moore, and Marianne is a middle secondary transition specialist at the Virginia Department of Education, and I'm an occupational therapist and also a clinical assistant professor at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and we co-facilitate this practice group, and we're excited that you all have joined us for this webinar today. If you would like any more information about anything today or the practice group, you'll see our emails on the slide, as well as you can go to our shared work site where the recordings of all previous webinars that we've hosted are available, as well as the recording for today's webinar, and any resources that are shared today will be posted to this website. There's also opportunities on the transition shared work site to participate in message boards and things like that, and have access to some resources related to all of our work that we do. So please check that out. This slide just shares some of the past webinars that our practice group has hosted, so you'll see a variety of topics. And as I said, all of these the recordings are posted on that shared work site. So if you are interested in any of these topics, please feel free to access those on the shared work website. So we would like to go ahead and get started, and I want to introduce our first speaker, who is Claudette Fetty, and she is an occupational therapist as well, and she's going to be sharing some resources for back to school. Claudette?
Yes. Hi, I'm Claudette Fetty. I wear several hats. I'm a parent advocate, an occupational therapist, an educator, and a researcher. I think this webinar is reaching out to both professionals and to parents. Our intent is to share resources that you can provide to parents. First, I'm going to go through a sampling of the resources that are available on the AOTA website. And then I also want to share some resources for the IDA partnership and family-run and advocacy organizations, as well as some IDEA resources that might be useful for families. First, the AOTA website has a number of resources and fact sheets. An example is the OT in school settings fact sheet. And this has some little snips of it or pictures of it off of the website. It supports occupational therapy's role in helping children participate as students, and our utility in observing and suggesting strategies to facilitate participation, to reduce barriers by suggesting compensatory strategies, and help plan instructional activities to support the classroom, and collaborate as part of the educational team. The bottom web shot that I have for you is a shot of the occupational therapy fact sheets and a website for you to go reach to be able to access those. This particular document provides really nice support for occupational therapists and schools working collaboratively and with a focus on school participation. So more from a workload model than a caseload. And then something I'm very familiar with is the School Mental Health Toolkit, which is something else that you can access through AOTA. It is a project of the School Mental Health Work Group, which is part of the Community of Practice on School Behavioral Health First, you want to read the How to Use document. And what that does is provides an overview of the 3 tiers in a public health model for school support, most currently referred to as an interconnected systems framework. It overlaps as well with response to intervention and PBIS models that seek to support children early rather than waiting for them to fail. And then within that toolkit, there are very specific tip sheets that address a range of issues and roles for occupational therapy in supporting students. Everything from environment kind of things, looking at creating a positive environment in the cafeteria or at recess or various different settings, to specific issues such as obesity and bullying prevention and mental health or mental illness issues, and then how to promote strengths, and so kind of a range of mental health supports to look at how an occupational therapist might be able to support children in schools. And another example of something that you can find on the AOTA website is the transitions fact sheet. And it looks at transitions and how OT might support transitions both in early childhood, so from early intervention services to preschool, and then from preschool to kindergarten, and also in that transition from high school into adult life, and provide some specific kinds of suggestions. At the bottom, I have a web shot from the resources list, and there are all kinds of resources that you can get on the AOTA website. Something to note is some of them will have an M after it, and that just means that those are member only. So you may need to find someone who is a member to access those, but you'll find a whole lot of resources that are available just to anyone just getting onto the website. And then there's an elopement and wandering fact sheet. That's in an area of the website that is that has a whole lot of resources that are specific to autism. But I highlight it because that is certainly not limited to kids with autism, and there are some resources there that might be useful for a number of different children and families. And then there is a whole area of the AOTA website with resources around response to intervention, and I've included several of them here for you. There is a push with the 2004 IDA reauthorization to increase support to children in general ed before referral to special ed or to OT. In the school district where I worked, I was the OT for my schools, and so I was a resource for teachers and students throughout the school, and half of my workload was response to intervention. It was a very efficient way to support teachers and students throughout the school. And this is a document that is relatively new, and I love it. It is the Guidance for Performance Evaluation for School Occupational Therapists. It provides really strong support. It is a long read. It's not short, but it provides really strong support for OT's role in supporting performance and participation. I'm using it to frame a presentation on the role of occupational therapy on the school mental health team at the Advancing School Mental Health Conference next month. But it is an excellent document, so I've given you the link to that too. And then, jumping off of the AOTA website, I wanted to share a couple of other things that are my favorite resources too. One of those is the IDA partnership, of which the communities of practice are part of, but they have collections. And if you get onto the IDA partnership website and scroll down, and I have on this web shot the using tool scrolled open, and scroll down to the collections, many issues and concerns that one might want to think about are represented in those collections, and those are created through a consensus process with many different disciplines participating and coming to consensus about what are best practices around some of the issues we face. So those are there, and then the communities of practice are facilitated through the IDA partnership. I did not include a web shot for shared work because I know that is changing and I didn't want the images to confuse anyone. But you can go to www.sharedwork.org to see the communities of practice, and they have them on transitions, response to intervention, school behavioral health, and there's a brand new one for families and family organizations called the Family School Community Collaboration that I would urge you to give to families and family organizations and ask them to join us. We're kind of getting together to see how we support each other in a large community. And then just some information and resources for families on IDEA that I would suggest sharing. One is Rights Law, which is a great resource for rights and about IDEA and the law itself, but it's very information heavy. Another wonderful resource that has been around in the past is Nishi. That is moving to the Parent Center Hub. .org, and I've given you that website, but that's a wonderful resource with lots of rich information around IDEA. And then there's also the PACER Center, and they have, on their site, they have a nice IDEA parent guide put out by the National Center for Learning Disabilities. So all of those would be really great resources for families on IDEA. And then I live in the world of mental health, so that is my area. But these types of organizations exist in many or most disability groups, but I wanted to share mine with you. In mental health, we have statewide family networks in nearly every state, and those are family-run organizations that provide family-to-family support with families with lived experience and very deep knowledge in almost every state. There is a directory put out by the University of South Florida, and I've given you the link, that you can go to and just click on your state and find out what the family-run organizations in your state are. And I've included logos for some of the my heroes anyway on here, but you can find them for wherever you are. The Federation of Families is another really good resource, and many of the statewide family networks are also Federation of Families chapters. And I didn't put it on here, but NAMI is another resource, and the Federation and NAMI sometimes are coalesced together, but very frequently are something different. The Federation tends to support more recovery kinds of ideology, have a life anyway, and NAMI tends to support more of a medical model. So depending on where families that you support are, you might want to head toward one or the other. FREDLA is a fairly new organization that is the leaders of the statewide family networks and other family organizations. So those might be some resources that would be really useful to share with families. And I would say even if your family that you're wanting to get support for, it's not a primary mental health need, those families very often know what the other resources are and which things have been successful for other families. Another resource that's open to all kinds of disability groups are the Parent Technical Assistance Centers, or the PTACs. And those are also have recently put up, or the Parent Center Hub has recently put up an interactive map for those too, so that you can find those in whatever state that you're in and find out who your PTACs are. And that's a great resource for families. And then I want to close my part with one of my soapboxes. As family members, we very often access resources through our children's deficits, and it's really easy to get stuck there, both as families and as professionals. But that's not a great place to build one's identity, and it has limited utility in supporting successful participation in important roles. So I want to close with just kind of reminding us to remember to highlight our children's strengths. It's a useful thing to do as the school year starts and introducing children to new teachers and support personnel, to also say what they're good at and what they enjoy. A strategy that I've used and I've had teachers use successfully is with the annual IEP meetings to just start with a slideshow about the really cool things about this child and what their interests are and what they're into and what their successes over the year have been. It's very helpful to help students kind of prepare for the school year, to think about what they have to look forward to and what they're good at and how that's going to be embedded into their education, and certainly at the end of the day to reflect on successes that they've had on the things that are important to them. So that is what I have for you, and I'm going to hand you off to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi, this is Marianne Moore, and I'm going to introduce our next presenter. Hunter works for a company called, actually it's an education technology company called EverFi, and I've had the pleasure of touring around this site, and I think it's probably one of the most exciting, interactive online opportunities that students can have. But anyway, on to Hunter. He has a degree in international studies, and he also has a master's degree in education from Arizona State. He is also a Fulbright scholar, and with all of these things combined, he's been to China, India, Dominican Republic, and Australia. Through his Fulbright scholarship, he was in India, and he was teaching English to students. And he says in his bio that he taught 600 students. I'm just hoping that wasn't the class size, that they were divided up into a few more than just one class. Anyway, when he returned from India, he began to work for EverFi. So Hunter, if you want to start.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction. But hearing someone else say that it's quite flattering. Thank you so much. To everyone on the line, a little bit about EverFi. I'm going to kind of give you an overview and let you know all the resources that you all have available. Again, my name is Hunter Gross, and definitely look forward to taking the opportunity to really answer any questions that anyone may have, but we'll just start right away. So first, going off of who is EverFi. We have over 8,000 schools in America using our products. Over 9 million students are certified, and what we mean by certified is they've completed every section of our modules from start to finish. We work with over 50,000 teacher partners, and we are actually now in both the U.S. and Canada. If we look a little bit more specifically at those numbers, what I really like to stress about EverFi is this second point, or this third point here, about our sponsorship models. All of our courses are paired up with a sponsor or partner. So everything I'm about to talk about today comes to everyone here at no cost. So we're not going to come back a year later and say you've used our program, it's this much money. We'll never ask for money because we do have a partnership model where we work with sponsors, and sponsors are now nationwide. And if you're on this call and you live in one of the 50 states in Canada, you do have a sponsor that you just may not have known about yet. So I really like to stress that point. So a little bit now about EverFi and our learning platform. We actually decided as a company to target what we call the critical life skills. So looking on this screen here, you'll see all 6 categories that we have courses in. We have courses in financial literacy, both in elementary school and a high school course in that. We have 2 STEM courses. One introduces students to technology and how to use it in your daily life. as well as the other one introducing you to basic math and coding skills needed in order to pursue a STEM career. We also do have a health and wellness course for high schoolers, having them think about the ways they interact with alcohol. We have 2 civic engagement courses. One, the Commons one, is from 7th through 10th grade, and that's because we've seen it live many, many places across the nation. This introduces students to actually their role in government and how government works, both on a local and national level. We also have 306, which is an introduction to African American history throughout America. We have a career success course that talks about what it means to be an entrepreneur. And then coming next summer, we have a course called Verano, which focuses on summer learning loss. So those are all the programs that we have available. You, as an educator, are able to access all of them. Every teacher can use all of them. Every school district has access to all of them. And it really is, all of our courses have been targeted with the idea of using them as effective supplements to whatever main content you are teaching in your classroom. So here's an idea of how our curriculums are specifically designed, and you can apply this across the board for every single one of our courses. Each course will start here. If you look at that purplish pink section on the top left, students will take a pre-assessment. In this pre-assessment, it really helps measure how much the student knows about that specific topic. How much do they know about personal finance? How much do they know about their rights as a citizen? So on and so forth. After the assessment, they will then go to a portion that has explicit direct instruction. Now, what makes our program so great and applicable to all different types of learners is our direct instruction has a variety of methods. We have a green screen where someone kind of walks onto the screen. It's a physical human being, and the green screen changes to the background setting based on the location of the topic that's being presented, so it's very interactive. We have cartoons, we have animation, we have audio, we have very colorful visuals. So we really want all different types of learners to understand the topics being covered, and that's where we have different ways that that instruction is given. After the direct instruction, students will have a chance for guided practice and an opportunity to really make sure they understood the instruction they were given. If they didn't understand it, they actually get to go back at their own pace and their own rate, and they can go through the direct instruction again. Finally, once they pass the guided practice, they will have the independent practice where they will create some higher level activity to really prove they understood what they learned. And then, as you can see, the arrow loops back in, and they will actually then take their final assessment. So this will make a little bit more sense, but this flow, as it says on the top left, is per module. So all of our courses, there is not a final accumulative exam. We actually go through this entire cycle per module. The reason why we do this is the idea that, let's say you want to go through the topics in different order, or you only want to use 5 out of the 7 modules present. We don't want to bind you to some final exam, and we really want this, as I said earlier, to be an assessment and a tool that you can use at your own pace with your students in whatever way you see most appropriate. I always get this question, so I just kind of address it here before we move on. People want to know who helps us create this content. We've worked with directors and doctors from Stanford University. They've helped us with their 306 course. We worked for NIFTY with our entrepreneurship course. iCivics, which was founded by Sandra Day O'Connor, helped us do our common course. And then we worked across the board with different past educators and state legislators to really come up with our other products that we have available. So what I'm going to do now is actually show a short example of our personal finance module. The reason why I'm selecting this one is not any form of favoritism, but it's actually our oldest course and our most well-known across the nation. So chances are one of you on this call may have already used it or have a colleague who has used it. So I'm going to just take this moment to use this kind of as the model, and then we can open it up for questions afterwards or after all the presenters have gone. But here's a breakdown of what our courses look like. This one specifically has 9 modules in total. The grade level, as I said, is 9th through 12th graders, and the approximate length is 6 to 8 hours. Again, this is all computer-based, so the reason why we have that 6 through 8 hours length is because some students may be able to move through it quicker, other students may need more time, but again, the whole goal is for this to be self-paced and students work at their own rate and not feel pressure from the people they're sitting next to, from their table partners, or whatever type of group setting there may be around. We really want this to be an individualized experience. There are 9 modules in this specific course, and as I said, you as a teacher are able to go in any order you want possible. So if you want to use savings, you want to use financing higher education, and number 8, consumer fraud, you can use those courses, and the order specifically is not binding. That being said, if you only want to use modules 2, 4, and 6, and then you don't want to use any of the other ones, that is another option as well, because we really just want you using this tool. But ideally, you would have your students complete the entire module in any order that you select. Another example here of a course, just to let you know the different lengths. This one is called Ignition. This is a great course that really introduces students to everything surrounding the world of technology, from buying an appropriate computer to how to act responsibly online, to not have cyberbullying, to how to use marketing in the media, to think about potential STEM careers. So very versatile course. And this grade level is 6th through 9th grade. And as you can see, it's also a shorter course. It's 3.5 hours instead of the 6 to 8 hour personal finance course. So I really like to use that example to point out that our courses also vary in length, but the longest one we have is 10 hours, so clearly going off that idea of using it as a supplement because you work with students more than 10 hours over the entire school year. This one is called Radius. Again, this is our math and coding course. I'll quickly just do the highlights for these last ones, but kind of the big ones we hit here: introductory to algebra, as well as math and coding, 8th through 10th grade, and about 8 through 10 hours long. Here we have our Vault course. This one targets elementary school students and teaches them the introductory to personal finance. You can see in the pictures here already it's a lot more animated and cartoony. Cartoony not in a bad way, but actually animated to engage elementary school students instead of being super text heavy. Again, this is an even shorter course with 2.5 hours. Our other course, our alcohol course, again targeted towards high schoolers, and this is another short course at 2 hours. Here we have our Commons course, kind of a mid-length course with 5 hours. Again, introducing students to their rights as citizens, and you can see the different topics covered there, as well as the use of both digital computers and cartoons for animation. Next, we have the example of 306, our African American History course, which actually takes students through 4 different time periods instead of module sections, and starts with the slavery period, then goes to emancipation, the Jim Crow period, and the civil rights period and beyond. And then finally, our entrepreneurship course, that is 3 modules long, is our shortest course at 1.5 to 2 hours, and really has students consider, what it would be like to run their own business and be an entrepreneur. So that's kind of an overview of our courses. Then I always like to share this slide because you might be wondering, these products look great, but how have they been used previously in the past by EverFi? So I always like to share this. First thing is you get an introduction to the program. You can see that with the little handshake symbol there, and that's what we're all going through right now. After that would be a launch, and this is where we would determine kind of how you want to use this program specifically in your school or your district. After the launch, you would have a district or teacher-wide training, and that's where myself or your specific representative will teach you how to use the program. I will talk more about that towards the end. After you're trained, you actually start using the course. The training takes about 45 minutes, but once you're trained, it's actually live immediately. You start using the course with your students, and then of course at the end they get certified. Certified again meaning they completed every single module within that specific course. Here are all the different ways we've seen teachers use our courses throughout the year. And again, I really like this because we don't want to pigeonhole you or keep you in an area where, no, you must use the course in this way. So teachers have gotten really creative. Starting with the capstone project, we have seen teachers make some of our courses the project that students must be able to successfully complete in order to prove that they understood other material that teachers had already taught them throughout the year. We've seen teachers use the entire course start to finish in order to show students, hey, do you really know as much as you think you do about online safety, or could you learn more? So that's the introduction. We've had teachers use it as the practice, where the teacher actually introduces the new material based on a textbook, state standard, or Common Core standard, and then uses our course as the guided practice in order to ensure that the student really learned what they should have. On the reverse side of that, we do have it as the independent practice, just seeing can a student complete our entire course on their own after getting the review to see, hey, did they really understand what they should have. Last two, we have the review of content where teachers have given students their own tests, their own quizzes, everything based out of curriculum, and they just use this as a nice little review before a major state or certified exam. And then finally we have the flipped classroom where, because it is an online tool, they have students complete our courses outside of the classroom and then use classroom time to really talk about what they assigned for homework. So I was a little quick there, but I did want to make sure we had time for questions. Up here is my personal contact info. Again, my name is Hunter. I'll leave this on the screen. You can email me or call me if you need anything. I'm the schools manager for Virginia, and the reason why I have this up here is depending where you're located, each state and region have their own schools manager. So I am specifically Virginia's, but as we're clearly not going to have every single representative on this call at the same time, I'll be your point of contact, your initial point of contact, and then I will pass you on to the appropriate person for your state and region so you know who to reach out to. Again, kind of the following steps from here are you reach out to me, I will put you in touch with your state representative, your contact, and then we can work with you and your district and your other teachers to set up a very short 25 to 45 minute training, and then any one of those courses that I talked about that really interest you after the training are ready to go and they're live, and you can really start using these programs that are engaging and interactive to assess your students and really see them grow.
Great. Thanks, Hunter. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, that's it. So that's what I was going to say. So at this time, that's it, and I'll wrap it up.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions. And
Okay, great.
one question from, let's see, wants to know if, do families need to access through a school, or can they, could they just contact you and get their state representative and set up an account maybe for a child on their own as the family, not the school?
Yep, great question. We get that all the time. All you need to do is reach out to me. I will then get your state representative, and you are able to access it from home.
Great. And then another question, I think you answered it, but somebody asked, can you buy a single course?
Yep, great question. First, I just want to clarify that you don't have to buy the course because it's covered at no cost. And yes, you can access any single one of these courses. You can access 3 of the 6. You can access all 6. So really whatever you need.
Okay, great. Those were the only 2 questions, but I would add, being from Virginia and at the state education agency, I got a call the other day from a large division, and they had seen EverFi, and all students in Virginia need to take economics and personal finance to graduate, and they were thinking of using your finance course for students as a virtual, they also have to have a virtual course, a virtual course to graduate, and may or may not be credit bearing. And so what this division was thinking of doing is using your financial literacy course as to cover the virtual course that students would take, but also providing them an elective credit for graduation, which I thought was a good idea.
Yep, we have heard a lot of people talking about that, and it is great. So I would like to echo that. We definitely have it working that way in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I'm sure each state has their own little different way, but it is definitely something we've seen more and more people apply to their situations.
Yeah, and we also have a large initiative on anti-bullying, so I can see somebody using the computer course, the technology course also, and going through that bullying online unit particularly, and using that as part of their initiative that they were doing with all their students. So I see lots of uses.
Yes, lots of uses. They're all great. They're all great, and thank you for that support.
Okay, somebody else is continuing to type, but I don't know. Let's see. To get a better view, oh, okay, never mind. It was something about the next speaker. Sorry. Thank you so much, Hunter. I'm sure that people will be emailing you to find out, if they're not from Virginia, then who their contact is, and particularly some families.
Great.
Our next presentation is comes from Faith Hoddle, who is what we call in Virginia a transition facilitator, and she is located in Rockingham County, which is in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley. I do have to give a little plug, not just for the Shenandoah Valley, but originally this portfolio was developed through a grant that school divisions in the Shenandoah Valley received, and they worked collaboratively. But after the grant funding was gone, the Valley teachers continued to meet and update these resources, and now Rockingham County Schools, public schools, has taken not really ownership, but they certainly have taken ownership of the continuing to update and improve, and this is now an online document that anybody can access, and Faith has really been the driving force behind making this so usable for so many people. So thank you so much, Faith, not just from Virginia, but from some of our sister states who we work with. And Faith, do you want to get started?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks, Marianne. Well, I will go through this, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. At the top of the page, you'll see that there's the address. It is set up as a blog, and it was set that way so that our folks here can update it as needed. You know, sometimes we come across websites and the address is changed. Having this set up like this, our folks here can go through and change that. I do want to draw your attention at the top. You'll see this looks like a notebook, and it's lavender in color. And then right underneath, you'll see SVRP Transition Portfolio. Then we have Rockingham County and Pupil Personnel Services. They're colored so that all of the regional portfolio, you'll know you're on the right page because it's all lavender. And this is a portfolio that we have a blank that each of our teachers gets. It's actually a folder with several sections. It's actually sectioned for each grade level and for each category. And a student gets one upon entering middle school, and it follows them through their high school career. And then we usually give it to the student, sometimes in a ceremony, but we present it to the student with their summary performance. And it's accumulation of all the activities and transition assessments that they've done during their high school career. Many folks are doing resumes and job applications and recording other community agencies, so it's all in that portfolio that goes with the student so that they have it afterwards. I do plan to briefly highlight just a few items under the categories here, but I encourage you, when you have time, to take time to go through it. What you're going to see are just screenshots, and if I'm going too fast, please let me know. Classroom teacher, so I speak quickly. Here you'll see their introductory activities, and that is through this section right here. At the top, there's a brief overview, directions. This right here, this line transition portfolio, that's actually the blank portfolio, and I'll show you that shortly. And then we have a portfolio for students with significant disabilities, and I will show you that. We come to introduction. The first line of each section here, and you'll see there's a line separates it, but the first line is a brief overview, and then the next line underneath of that is actually activities. So here I have introductory activities. You'll see a couple there. I do want to highlight, if you go to the next page, transition services for students with disabilities. There's a link right off the page. And this is a great page. It's a great resource if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it. But we ask teachers at the beginning of every year to look this over, but lots of great information there. And that's under introductory. That's also for new teachers. It's a great way to introduce them to transition and the requirements. Another thing that we highlight on here are the VITC sheets. It's the Virginia Intercommunity Transition Council. There's a link to that. And if you scroll down, you'll see fact sheets, and it has employment, health and wellness. These are fantastic sheets to print and share with families, take to IEP meetings, maybe go over with students. It's just a wealth of information. The next page. So those are just two samples under introduction. We go down to the next section, and it's general assessment. So the first line, of course, identify needs. It's just a brief description. Second line are the activities. And you'll see there some of them are printed sheets. Some of them are websites, links to websites. Just to note, the documents are Word documents, so you can save them and then change them, tweak them, make it fit what you need, what your school needs, what your student needs. A lot of these we'll go through, and they're tailored to the student needs. We do use Gary Clark and Patton books, but we also can tweak these documents to send home so we can get the families and parents in on that process as well. Anyway, under general assessment activities, you'll see we have some listed there. If you scroll to the bottom, we have the Are You Ready website, and I've done a screen capture. We used to get those books from guidance. Now you can get them direct, and we always ran out. Now you can get them directly from the CTE Resource Center. By the way, if you have not seen this, this is another amazing website, just about everything you can possibly imagine here. But when you go to this particular link, you'll see all the different categories. They have agriculture. Go down, let's see, fourth from the bottom, that's the magazine that we typically use with our students. There's also a parent's guide, which is wonderful. You can send that home as well. And so that's the Are You Ready magazine under the CTE resource website. Another website that's pretty good that we use a lot of, it's the VARC, and there is a link directly on the website to this. It's a guide to learning styles. It has it has questionnaires, help sheets. It has an assessment, a self-assessment that students can do. Once you get the results and how to get the results, once you get that, it has it divided, visual learners, strategies for learning. When you click on that, you get a chart that shows process, how that works, how everything comes together, gives you strategies. They are wonderful to print and give your gen ed teachers, even sending it, working with students with that to help them understand. Self-advocate, what does your disability look like, sound like? What are strategies to help you? It's a great website, a great tool. We also use these lots of times in eligibility meetings or IEP meetings. It's a true partnership with parents, so sometimes helping them understand as well. From general assessment, then we go to the self-advocacy activities. Our students are regularly access I'm Determined website. We want students to be the director of their future, and we're partners helping them along, helping to facilitate what they need. But the self-advocacy activities, you'll see many there. And something I'd like to highlight is the the very first one is the academic self-advocacy questionnaire. You'll notice it says print and fill in. You can print it, a paper copy, and give that to the student to fill in, or you can have them fill in on the computer, maybe even drop that form in a student's digital Dropbox, and they can pull that up when they have a moment or two, maybe during some transition times, or even at home. Here's what that form looks like. It's a 2-page document, and I've just shown you just page 1. It's using a 0, 1, 2, 3 scale. Once again, it's a Word document. You can change that to fit the needs of your student, whether you want it to go home. Another thing under that particular category is the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and we show that we do have links to Virginia View and Virginia Wizard, and they're wonderful. We also do the Occupational Outlook Handbook. First thing students always go to is the section that says pay, what you can expect to be paid. And another under that, one more that I'd like to highlight under that. Under the Virginia Department of Ed website, they have this great page that's for students and parents. And the more we empower folks, the better our outcomes are for all of our communities. But it's a great website to send home, letting parents look at it, students, maybe having students learn their way around the website so they can go home and show parents. A lot of useful information, but that's also under that tab, that section. Then we move further down, and we've gone through introduction, general assessment, self-advocacy, and now the middle school portfolio. This is a look at the blank middle school portfolio. At the top of each grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, the first tab there is the actual blank portfolio. Once again, we have these printed up on folders, but you can see that this each has a blank. What happens is that the teacher, each teacher has to be sure you have no less than one assessment under each category. If we know that we have a student in the 7th grade or 6th grade and we need to do something about employment, let's start at the beginning. They can go over to the employment tab down here, click on that, and it will give them some activities under employment to do, some assessments and activities. And this is what the middle school looks like. You'll see there are some forms, there are some websites, so students and teachers can decide what's most applicable, what's going to benefit the student most, and click on that and pull something up. They might have something of their own. Just a note that when students are filling in forms, or if they've gone to a website and taken a learning style inventory or something that the teacher has created, that is printed and placed in the portfolio. We go to education and training, and once again, you'll see that's next after employment, and there are some activities to choose from, lots of learning styles. And then we have the category of independent living and community, and this follows, what we, in Virginia, our post-secondary goals and our transition IEPs. Here's just a shot of what the 9th grade blank portfolio looks like. And as you peruse this, you'll see that each year there are more and more blanks, more and more things that we expect or things to choose from. Okay? And finally, at the top, I've referenced the, you'll see this is the 12th grade showing that there are more and more. I also talked about the portfolio for students with significant disabilities. That's a separate portfolio. I'm just giving you a brief, a short screenshot. Some of the activities are the same and some are different. One thing we talk about are the waivers and having that discussion. Meeting with a transition person or calling a planning team together and meeting and documenting that. Sometimes we use a combination of both of those portfolios. So there are lots of resources on both of those. Once again, it's lots of folks have done lots of things with these, lots of resources to choose from. Please feel free to make it your own. We're just tickled to have all of these resources available to us. And that's it.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Faith. And do you want to type in your email in case anyone wants to get in touch with you to talk specifically about something with the portfolio?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. At this time, does anybody have any questions? Thanks, Faith. We can see it now.
Okay.
I see somebody else is typing, so we'll wait for this question. Oh, it was a thank you for this interesting for the interesting and rich resources. Sorry. So it was a thank you, presenters. And just to remind you that it's recorded, so it will be online. The link for the recording and the resources will be online under shared work. And I think when that happens, we usually get a link and then we can send that out to folks, and we'll send it out to our communities that we work with. Oh, she's already given us, Mariola, or somebody has already typed in where that will be, the link where we can find that. So, Ashley, do you have anything you want to say?
No, thank you to all the presenters and to everyone. Feel free to email any of the presenters or Marianne or myself, and definitely visit us on Shared Work and check out all the resources we have there.
Okay. Mariola, as our host.
Thank you so much. This was so impressive. So many rich, interesting resources. I cannot wait when we post this on Shared Work so we can really see how much information you shared today.
Okay, great. And Hunter, Faith, and Claudette, sorry. Thank you all. Thank you three so much for participating today, and all the people who dialed in.
Thank you.